Hey everyone, it's Rachel. Let's talk about something that affects us all, our money and the hidden traps in our daily routines that can secretly sabotage our financial goals. Have you ever looked at your bank account mid-month and just wondered, where on earth did it all go? It feels like your paycheck just vanishes into thin air. I've been there and I know how frustrating that feeling is. It can make you feel stuck, like you're working incredibly hard but not getting anywhere financially, just running in place. The truth is, it's often not about how much you make, but about the small, everyday habits that quietly drain your finances. Think of it as financial death by 1,000 cuts, often without you even realizing it. These little actions, repeated over and over, are what stand between you and your biggest goals. They can keep you from paying off that nagging student loan, saving for a down payment on a house, or building a comfortable retirement where you have freedom and choices. Ultimately, they stop you from living the life you truly want. But here's the good news. This is something you can absolutely control. It's not about blame. It's about empowerment through awareness. Once you identify these habits, you can take back the power and make a change, starting today. Let's start with a big one, living beyond your means. This is when your spending is consistently higher than your income, creating a shortfall you have to cover somehow. It's a subtle but incredibly destructive pattern. You might be using credit cards to cover the gap, dipping into savings for non-emergencies, or relying on overdrafts just to make it to payday. It's that constant underlying stress of barely scraping by each month. It's dangerously easy to fall into this trap, especially in our hyper-connected world. Social media bombards us with everyone else's highlight reel. You see a friend's amazing vacation, a colleague's new car, or an influencer's designer handbag, and that little voice of comparison whispers, "I deserve that too." This external pressure to keep up can be immense, pushing us to make financial decisions based on perception rather than reality. But this habit is so dangerous because it creates a relentless cycle of debt. The interest piles up, acting like a tax on your future. It eats away at your future income before you even earn it, making it incredibly hard to break free and get ahead. You're always playing catch up, and you never have a chance to get ahead. The simple fix? Start tracking your spending. Just for 1 week, write down every single dollar you spend. You'll be amazed at what you find. Another habit we have to talk about is skipping the budget. I know, the B word can sound scary or restrictive, but a budget is not your enemy, it's your plan for success. It's you telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. When you don't have a budget, you're essentially flying blind. You might overspend on things that aren't important to you, like too many takeout meals, subscription services you forgot you had. This leaves no room for your actual goals, like saving for a down payment, getting out of debt. My tip is to try a zero-based budget. Every dollar has a name before the month begins. It gives you permission to spend, guilt-free, because you planned for it. The final habit in this section is a tough one, neglecting to save. So many people think they can't afford to save money. One of the biggest money traps is the "I'll save later" mindset. We tell ourselves, "I'll start saving when I get a raise." But when that raise comes, so does lifestyle inflation. That extra money gets absorbed by a slightly nicer apartment, more frequent takeout, or a new car payment. You feel like you've earned it, but your savings account doesn't see a dime. Exactly. Or the other classic, "I'll save what's left over at the end of the month." This sounds logical, but it rarely works. Our expenses have a funny way of rising to meet our income, so by the time the month ends, there's usually nothing left. Neglecting to save means you have no safety net. When an emergency happens, like a car repair or a medical bill, it instantly becomes a crisis, causing major stress. And without that savings cushion, you're forced to use high-interest credit cards. This is how the debt spiral begins. Now you're paying interest on the original emergency, which eats into your next paycheck, making it even harder to save in the future. The solution is to flip the script. You have to make saving a priority, not an afterthought. This is called paying yourself first. Think of it as the most important bill you pay each month, an investment in your future self. The easiest way to start is to automate it. Set up an automatic transfer of even just $25 from your checking to your savings account each payday. The amount isn't as important as building the habit. You'll be surprised how quickly that small, consistent action adds up and builds a real financial cushion. Now let's talk about another savings killer, impulse buying. It's that little dopamine hit from a spontaneous purchase, often triggered by stress or a desire to treat yourself. You walk into a store for one thing and walk out with a cart full of things you didn't plan to buy. Or you're scrolling online late at night and suddenly that targeted ad seems like a must-have. These small emotional purchases might seem harmless, but they derail your budget and can add up to thousands of dollars a year. That's money that could have been invested and growing for your future. To fight this, try the 24-hour rule. Before making a non-essential purchase, wait a full day. This pause gives you time to think logically instead of emotionally. Ask yourself, do I truly need this or do I just want it in this moment? More often than not, you'll find the intense urge disappears. This simple act of discipline saves your wallet, reduces clutter, and keeps you firmly in control and on track with your financial goals. That's money that could have been building your emergency fund, investing for retirement, or funding that dream vacation. So how do we stop this cycle? A great way to break the habit is the 24-hour rule. It's simple but incredibly effective. When you see something you want, especially online, resist the urge to click Buy Now. Instead, add it to your cart and walk away for a full day. This cooling off period allows the initial emotional rush, often triggered by clever marketing, to fade. Use that time to ask yourself, does this purchase align with my goals? Will I actually use it? Is this a genuine need or just a fleeting want? More often than not, you'll realize you don't need it, and you'll feel empowered by the choice. Next up is a habit that can feel like a heavy weight on your shoulders, ignoring debt. The constant, low-level stress is exhausting. When you have student loans, credit card balances, and car payments, it can be so overwhelming that it feels easier to just not think about it. You make the minimum payments thinking you're managing, but this is a trap. Paying only the minimum on a high-interest credit card can mean you're in debt for decades, paying thousands more than the original amount. Ignoring debt is like ignoring a leaky pipe. The problem only gets worse and more expensive. The interest keeps piling up, and you're sending your hard-earned dollars to the bank instead of investing in your own future. The best way to tackle this is to face it head-on. List all your debts from smallest to largest. This gives you a clear target. Then attack the smallest one with every extra dollar you can find. Once it's paid off, you get a quick win and a huge motivational boost. Then you take the entire payment you were making on that first debt and roll it onto the next smallest one. This is the debt snowball, and it works because it builds momentum and helps you see real progress, fast. Finally, relying on credit is a habit that keeps people trapped. We live in a world that tells us we need a credit card for everything, renting a car, booking a hotel, or earning those tempting rewards points. But here's the truth. For most of these things, a debit card works just fine. The real problem is that swiping plastic feels abstract. It disconnects us from the reality of the purchase, making it dangerously easy to overspend. Think about it. Handing over cash feels very different from tapping a card. Before you know it, you're carrying a balance, and those so-called rewards are completely wiped out by interest charges that are designed to keep you paying for months or even years. Breaking this habit means choosing to live on your own income, using your own money, and taking back control from the credit card companies. To building a credit score. It's become normal to swipe a card and worry about paying for it later. This creates a dangerous disconnect between your spending and your actual money. When you use a credit card, you don't feel the purchase the same way you do with cash or a debit card. This often leads to overspending and racking up high-interest debt. The solution here is simple but powerful. Switch to using your debit card or cash for your purchases. When you use your own money, you become much more intentional about where it's going. Let's talk about poor investment choices. This one can be tricky because it often comes from a good place. You want to grow your money. But maybe you get a hot tip from a friend about a stock, or you jump on a trendy investment without doing any research. These decisions are more like gambling than investing. Good investing is boring, and it's a long-term game. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about building wealth steadily over time. My advice is to seek out a qualified financial advisor who can help you make smart decisions. Don't ever invest in something you don't understand. Now, let's address a habit that's less about spending and more about earning: staying stagnant. This is when you get too comfortable in your job or career and stop looking for ways to grow your income. Maybe you haven't asked for a raise in years, or you've stopped learning new skills that could make you more valuable in the marketplace. Staying stagnant hurts your finances because your income is your most powerful wealth-building tool. If your income isn't growing, you're losing ground to inflation, and you're limiting your ability to save, invest, give. It's so important to be proactive about your career. A simple step you can take is to schedule a meeting with your boss to discuss your performance and future opportunities for growth within the company. Another growth blocker is making poor investment choices. This can look like a few different things. Maybe you're putting all your money into a super risky get-rich-quick scheme you heard about online. Or maybe you're on the other end of the spectrum and you're so afraid of losing money that you keep all your savings in a low-interest savings account.